Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dialog One-on-One. I'm your host, Liam Shea, and today we have a fantastic interview lined up with our amazing guest, Charles Wilson. Charles is the Chief Returning Officer, or CRO, here at George Brown College. Charles is here has joined us today to talk about the upcoming elections at George Brown Student Association, what this means, and as well as how this affects us students and how you guys can get involved. Thank you so much for joining us, Charles. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's a delight to be here.
So I guess just to start things off, maybe just give us a rundown for students who's are joining us first semester. They don't really understand what the student association is and what these elections mean.
Well, I think the first thing I'll begin with is the student association is a major part of student life of any college, especially George Brown College.
Okay.
Your health plan, that's your student association. Your community action center, that's your student association. Your I already mentioned health plan. Your major events, that's your student association.
Okay.
Your advocacy work, that's your student association. And people don't realize how big it is and how major it is to the life of students in general. Um, the election is plain and simply who it is a question of asking the students who do you want to govern and guide your multi-million dollar enterprise that you form, you pay into, and
Right.
you are. The dialogue's part of this.
Yeah.
Um, you have your independence, but of course you're part of it still.
Mhm.
That's what the election is, and that's why the election is important. I think the biggest thing with the election is it's electing two separate um, but important groups.
Right.
The first is the board of directors, who are not full time in their position, not even part time in their position, are there to add a student voice to the association.
Okay.
The second group you're electing is the executive. The executive is the boots on the ground, day to day struggle of how things get done
Okay.
and what do we do. And some people's, I've heard many times in every election we get emails. Why does this election matter? They're all the same.
Hmm.
I've yet to see that be true in any election, from provincial, federal, municipal, or even student association elections.
Right.
What the student association does matters immensely to every single student, and that's why you should pay attention and get involved.
Right. No, I agree. Elections do matter, and especially like you're saying, the dialogue is a part of the student association. So we rely on how the student association is being run. So this is important to not just us, but as well as the students, in the sense of even all their small programs and clubs are run by some form of the student association, so they could be
Exactly.
affected by who is being elected. Um, it's a big year for elections as well. Almost every single position is up for election, or this term, I should say. Um, Maybe could you, it's just to save us a headache, let's not talk about every single position, but maybe just talk about some of the positions that you think are the most ones that should be highlighted and the roles
Well,
they play within the Stone Association.
well. Even though there's about 12 to 14 different positions on the ballot. There's really only about five types of positions on the ballot.
Okay.
So it's not as burdensome as one would think. So I'll begin with the two top, and then go down from there.
Sure.
The first is the director of communications and internal, and the closest analogy to the communications and internal position would be almost like a president.
Right.
They're the ones that are looking after the internal operations of the student association. Um, so that's the director of communications internal position. The director of operations position is probably closest akin to a VP finance.
Okay.
Working with finance, working with financial statements, working with operations. And then you have the director of education equity, which positions a lot closer to um, a lot of EDI, equity, diversion, and inclusion work in that position. Also liaisoning with the Canadian Federation of Students,
Okay.
which is an organization, love them or hate them. I'm neutral in this election on them. That George Brown Students pays a lot of money into to advocate on your behalf,
Right.
federally and provincially. And then you have the director of student experience, whose job is, I don't want to say to bring the fun to
Right.
student life at George Brown College, but really is to bring the fun to student
Okay.
life.
Yeah. No. It definitely sounds like there's a lot of responsibility that goes behind it, and that kind of actually leads me into my next question. Is these are some pretty big positions that need to be filled, and most likely, a person elective, the person who's elected for this position, or any of the ones you mentioned, will have a lot of responsibility added to your plate. What would you be willing to explain to us what students may expect from the decision if they decide to run? Uh, and just is it all fun and games, or what can they really expect and what they should be prepared for going into their position?
I believe it was Uncle Ben from the comic Spider-Man that said, "With great power comes great responsibility."
Right. Yeah.
And that's a pretty true saying for these positions. These positions are major responsibility.
Right.
Every single one of them. You're dealing with millions of dollars of student money,
Mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with millions of dollars of priorities. And sometimes you have two priorities, and you need to juggle them,
Right.
and there's no clear answer. A lot of the stuff coming to the board is 50-50 or closer
Right.
in terms of what's the right decision. So that's immense, and that's you have amazing staff, amazing managers of the student association to help you and guide you through those decisions.
Okay.
Having said that, there are positions that have the capacity for a lot of them.
Right.
They have you're intimately involved in orientation week. You're intimately involved in concerts and events and clubs and a number of different things. And that is, in my opinion, that is the core of student life on campus.
Right.
Um, Academics is important. Don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but you learn most cases as much outside the classroom as you do inside the classroom in an environment.
Right.
And essentially, for lack of a better word, the one-on-ones, the people fresh out of high school just coming to the environment, the the choices they will make in the next year, 2 years, 3 years at the college will really affect the rest of their lives.
So, for say of students who want to get that experience, like you were talking about, as well as make their voice heard, what's the process in which a student gets nominated and enter the running for these positions?
For the bulk of the positions, except Director of Communications and Internal Director of Operations, submit the nomination form online.
Okay.
You then have to you'll get email bounce back from me immediately. I don't even, it's automatic. It's just automatic. And from there, it would say, okay, this is what you have to do. You have to collect signatures.
Right.
In the olden days, in the before times, before this little thing called COVID-19
Mm-hmm.
really changed, put the world upside down.
Yeah.
The signatures were pens and papers. This time, it's not so much pens and paper as much as it's an online system called Simply Voting. What we do is we log into Simply Voting
Okay.
using your Google ID. You type it. I wish to nominate Jimmy Smith.
Okay.
And we will automatically know what position Jimmy Smith is nominated for. You don't need to say what position. And we go, cool, okay. Jimmy Smith has a nomination. Check. And you need for educational center reps, you need 30. You need 10 of those.
Okay.
And it's a Friday. It really is a Friday. And for executive positions, director of equity and education, director of student experience, you need 30 of those.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, if you're listening and you're interested in running, start hitting that grindstone, get out there, get the qualifications that Charles listed, and start getting those signatures. So, I guess for just general information, so that the students know how the dates that they should know, is they could just give us a breakdown of and a rundown of how these elections will proceed. In terms of when are the nominations due, when are the campaign due, and what time does voting start?
You have to ask me the tough questions, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Nominations are open. I have to look it up because I focus on my calendar tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Today. So nominations are open until the 23rd of March.
Okay.
The all candidates meeting I spoke of will happen somewhere between the 23rd and 27th of March. I
Okay.
haven't decided yet. And then campaigning opens until the 28th of March.
Okay.
And then voting happens the 4th to the 8th of March. And you can campaign right up until the time the polls
The polls
close at
close.
5 p.m. So 9 a.m. on the dot, the system will automatically send out an email on April 4th saying your ballot is ready, come and vote.
Okay.
And if you don't vote, we'll remind you a few other times, please vote.
Right.
Vote. Please vote. And then on the 8th, the system automatically closes at 5 p.m.
Well, always heard today. I hope we learned quite a bit, and I hope our students took away a lot of information, and hopefully get inspired to run or vote, or just do something involved in the elections. Charles, it was a pleasure to have you here. Long conversation, but worth it.
I talk a lot, okay?
Oh, I mean, it's perfect for me. It gives me a lot of room to work with. But again, it was a pleasure to have you here. And guys, be sure to check out the campaigning nominations, as well as look out for the emails about voting. I'm your host, Liam Shea, and I'll catch you guys next time on the next Dialogue One-on-One. Goodbye now.